Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you this snowflake slash Christmas inspired paper flower. And I hope you saw my last video. It was my Christmas garland on my staircase. And I wanted to say that I do want to do a lot more videos where I showcase different ways you can use paper flowers rather than just the same repetitive paper flower tutorials. So I have a lot of Christmas videos or Christmas themed videos to come, and I hope that you enjoy. So for this flower, I did say it's snowflake inspired, and there's a lot of reds and greens in Christmas, a lot of golds, glitter, silver, and so I just wanted to start with a snowflake inspired one. We did get snow yesterday, and that was November 13th. So that's pretty early, I think. I've only been in the Midwest for 3 years, and snow seems really early at this time of the year. But I just thought that I'd start with that because I just think blue and white is a beautiful color. So for here, what I did was I did use a blue shimmery cardstock with a snowflake pattern embossed on this white petal here. So it is sort of like a two-tone paper flower petal, and I did try to add in elements of snowflakes, icicles, things like that to kind of get that snowflake look. So I am going to go through what I used today, and let's get started. So for this template, I am using cardstock, so I typically recommend 65-pound cardstock. I get this paper from Michael's usually, but I also use this paper here, which is from Basil. I will leave a link below if I can find the exact paper. But just to show you what it looks like is this cardstock here. It has a very slight shimmer to it. I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up. That may just look like the reflections from my studio lights, but there's a little bit of a shimmer or like sort of a sparkle to this paper. It feels a little thicker than 65-pound. It might be 80-pound or less, but it is a little bit thicker. And this paper color is called Shimmer. So I will leave details below if you want to find it. I purchased it at Joann's. Joann's has great paper sales at this time of the year. Usually it would be like $6 for $1, which I think is a great price, especially for this quality cardstock. So this is the one that I use, and I'm also using this color here, which is called Sparkle. So this one here is called Shimmer. This one's called Sparkle. So this paper flower here was made with the Sparkle color, and then I wanted to make another one in the shimmer color, which is here. So I do have lots of this paper. I'm going to make a nice little display with these two colors. They kind of look similar. When you make the flower, it kind of doesn't really show the difference. I'm not sure. Well, yeah, you can kind of see that. So I wanted these two colors for my sort of snowy, frozen themed flower. This would be great if you are having a frozen party. If your child loves Frozen and you want to do paper flowers, this is a great idea. But that is a cardstock that I use. So these two colors, again, this is Sparkle for this flower and Shimmer for this flower that I'll make. It's going to be the same style, just different colors. Other than that, this white paper here is the regular 65-pound cardstock that I use typically from Michael's because I find that that's the greatest price when they're on sale. Okay, so for this flower, I have 4.5-inch petals, which I have 12 pieces. I have 4-inch wide petals. I have 12 pieces of those. And then I have 3-inch wide petals, but this I have 6 pieces. This is what I'm using for part of the center. And then for the white petals, which I'm going to use to do that sort of two-tone look, this is 4 inches wide, and this is 3.5 inches wide. There. I have a 7-inch wide hexagon, and then I have 4 pieces of this flower center. I used the same method that I used to make flower center number 7. I'm going to leave the link below. I know that there's that link. I know that I did make a video for that, so I will leave that link below if you want to see how to make it. I am putting up a video for that sort of spiral flower center this coming weekend, so I made sure that they were 2 inches tall for this piece here. I didn't want it to stick too high in the paper flower, so this is why it's 2 inches. I didn't care so much how big the salmon was here. I kind of made it pretty large. I wanted it to simulate sort of snow and a snowflake, so that's why the flower center looks like that. And for my petals, what I wanted was that embossed look. So these petals here I have already sort of embossed with the snowflake pattern. I have 2 more that I will do here. So for the embossed pattern, I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up. Okay, so that is a pattern that I used from an embossing folder. So I'm sorry if you don't have one. This is just a thing that I'm getting into with textures and stuff. So if you do have a embossing machine, this is great. If you don't, maybe you can borrow one if you know somebody. But this is a snowflake pattern embossing folder. So that is a pattern there. This is a smaller size. I got it from Joann's, and it's by the company Park Lane. I think I got this for like $2, and I recently got a Cricut Cuttlebug, and I think those are fairly old. I found it for like $40 brand new, so I thought that was a great price because I am starting to do a few other projects that I wanted to have embossing folders for. So really quick, this is my Cuttlebug. I found it at Joann's for $40, and I think that you can get one for that price used if you look on your local Facebook page, Facebook Marketplace or something like that. There are older ones because this is sort of a machine that maybe people don't use as much anymore. You can find it relatively cheap. There are other brands like the Sizzix brand, so if you have a big shot, this will work too. You may know all about it, but this is what I use to emboss it, and this is not a digital machine. It's something that you just crank. There's no electricity, there's no plug to it, and I'll show you how I use that. With the Cricut Cuttlebug, it comes with this block here. It's the plate A, and then they have a little mat, and then a plate B. I'm not sure if this is how you use it, honestly, but it works for me. And I think you sort of do a little sandwich. So I do the piece of paper in the embossing folder, close that up. I stick it in between these plates here. And then with the Cuttlebug, to open it up, simply just open up the sides. It drops down just like that, and then there's a little crank. You just slip this right through this whole sandwich that we created, and it forces pressure onto or between these plates, and then it gives you that sort of dimension. So all you do is just crank it. I go back around one more time. And then you take your folder out, and then your piece of paper has that design embossed on it. So it has that raised texture to it. I think this adds just a special something to the overall look. If you don't have one or you don't have access to one, obviously, if you just use the plain white paper, it should be fine, but this is what it looks like. So it does take quite a bit of time to do one piece, to do a single piece. That's the sort of downside to it. So I have actually done most of the petals, all except for one of each size, but it's fairly easy. If you cut out all your petals and then work on cutting other things and then doing this in the meantime, I find that it just uses the time better. So I cut all these white ones out first, and then I set these to cut on my machine, and while I did this embossing, so it didn't really take that much more time. And it's super easy if you have kids that like to help. Maybe that can be an option for you, just to have your children help. So that is it for my Cuttlebug, since I did all the other petals, but I just thought that's a good trick to have if you're making flowers and you want to add more dimension to it. Again, this was $40 for me. I like the pink. There are other ones out there in the marketplace that people might be selling, so take a look. And embossing folders are cheap, so this might be an option for you to take your flowers to the next level. And then obviously from here, it's just assembling the petals together for your flower. So just glue sticks, a glue gun, a pair of scissors, a bone folder, which I do leave links below in the description box about where you can find this. And then it's assembling the petals. So again, I have two sizes and I'll separate these. These I used for the flower center, so I will leave that up there, further off my mat. So I'm going to separate my petals into two piles. So this is pretty simple, just put them together and then you have your petal. Now, the problem with this paper is it's thicker, and so the overall result is thick. And when you add this petal here, this whole piece is fairly thick because this cardstock is thick, and then you added another piece. So I like to stay away from actually hot gluing the petal to this piece here. So if you like, you can use a regular glue stick. I actually want to use a tape runner, so I find this is just easy, and sometimes I don't like the mess that the glue stick leaves. So tape runner, if you're a scrapbooker or you just like to use tape runners, are very easy to use. So it's sort of like the whiteout the things that dispense whiteout. So it's kind of like that, and then it's got a very strong grip. And so I like that because it's secure, and then I don't add more thickness or bulk to the petal by adding hot glue. So this is the way that I wanted to make this flower, is with a tape runner. You can certainly use hot glue if you like. I just don't like the bulk that it gives to the petals. So this is what I will do. I will prep these petals really quick. Okay, so that was pretty mess-free and pretty quick if you just add your adhesive to all the petals and then you can transfer them to the backing piece. I like it also because the glue doesn't dry, and so this is a lot of good use if you have them. This is just, you can find it in the scrapbooking aisle at any store, so this is great to have. So from here, it's just easy. You just need to prep the petals. You can add a slit to the middle of the petal, like this. So I would say this slit is about 2.5 inches. This one I'll probably cut 2-inch slit. And I just do that with all of them. Because the petals are so thick, I do have to do them 2 at a time, or 3. And actually, after you get all your petals prepped, the easiest part is just assembling it. You will be using the hot glue gun for that portion. And so, like any other flower, I actually suggest doing this in batches. Just figure out maybe an idea of what kind of backdrop you're making or whatever flower you're making, and then you can just do everything in stages. So you can cut, you can emboss if you're doing this flower, and then you can prep all at once, and then that saves a lot of time. So now that I've cut them all, I don't need the scissors anymore. I'll put those away. And so from here, it's just gluing the 2 flaps together, gluing the petal like that. And so you would do this for all of your petals, as usual, if you've seen any of my videos. And because the flower petals are a bit thicker, I would suggest using a better quality glue so that none of the petals fall apart. So I'll go ahead and speed this up just so you don't have to watch the same step over and over, but I'm basically going to just glue all these flaps together in all of these petals, and then we'll assemble. So now that we have our petals prepped, we just simply put everything together. So with your 7-inch wide hexagon here, so I usually go by the widest point in this shape, so that's 7 inches. Here, it's just a matter of gluing 6 petals per layer because, again, we have a hexagon. And so I've really liked the look of having sort of 2 layers of the same petal size because it gives a more rounder look. So that's why I have 2 of the same size. If you don't really prefer that, or you just don't have as much time, you can skip having 2 layers of the same petal. You could just do 1 and then just go to the next size. So for instance, these are 4.5 inch wide petals. You could just do 1 set of 4.5 inch wide, and then you go another set of 4, 3.5. Hope I'm explaining that right. So you don't have to do what I did. It's more petals when you do, obviously, more layers, but I think the overall look is great. Especially for snowflakes, which I think are, you know, they always say special snowflake and that snowflakes are unique. So I think adding more petals to it makes it look more unique. So here, if you didn't want to do 2 layers of this size, obviously you could just move on to the next size. And this is what the flower would look like, which I think is great also, this look here. But because if adding the next size, there's a little bit of a gap here. And so I think that looks fine to have that gap there. But lately I've been preferring having that second layer, which covers up that gap better. And then you can move on to the next size. However, it just means more paper, more time. So definitely up to you whether you want to use it. And you do this enough, I think, making paper flowers and tutorials that you kind of forget certain things. I may have not said this, but this is my template 20. This is a flower that I did make a while ago, and it's one of my most popular templates. I really enjoy it because it has this sort of pointed tip, and so that looks great for rounded flowers, I think. So one of my most popular flowers, and this is the one that I've used on template 20. I have done this tutorial thing for a while, and I think I didn't actually say that earlier on in the video, so sorry for the blank there. Okay, so now that I have the 2 layers, you can see that they're the same size and there's not much of a gap between the petals here. If I wanted to, I can glue this layer like closer so that it sits sort of next to it, but I wanted it to be glued a little bit closer to the center so there's not such a difference in sizing, so I like that look. And then just move on to the next petal. Actually, I just noticed that nearly everything in this video is the same sort of turquoise blue color, and I'm living for it because it's a great color. One of my popular templates is called the Tiffany flower also, and I named it, at the beginning I just gave it a name, but I named it after the Tiffany jewelry company blue, which I think is trademarked. So I'm not trying to infringe on anything, but that blue color is gorgeous, like robin's egg blue. All right, so then the very last layer of petals. This one I'm going to kind of glue closer, away from the center, but closer to the other petals. I want enough space in the center for a small flower center in the middle. So the petals here will overlap quite a bit. If you don't particularly care for that look, just leave off this last layer of 6 petals. I think the overall look is still great without them. So here is the look with all the petals. And so this last one, which I didn't prep, because I didn't want to talk about it until I actually got to the center, but we do need our scissors again. I think I get a little ahead of myself. So for this one, I wanted that center here, and it sort of mimics the two-tone look with just the blue and then the white in the middle, but I wanted it to stand out a little bit without adding too difficult of a center in the middle. So for this it's just simply cutting the flaps and then gluing them together like with the other petals, but then you don't need to do much to these. We want to glue this in the middle, Now we have just a little amount of space here. You can adjust this before you're making it, add less petals, or try to group the petals closer towards the outside of the base rather than closer to the center. But here I'm going to put glue on just the left side of the petal. And then for these petals, just the glue across the middle, or the bottom portion, like that. And then the very last petal, just slip it underneath the first petal. And from here, we just start making our center. Now for the center, I wanted to make it very easy. All you do is you roll it out. Okay, so from here, now that you have all 4 pieces rolled together, it's just a matter of sort of taking those stamen pieces and sort of bending them. So I just bend them out a little bit. I start on the outside first. And you can also do this with just your finger or two. And then you can start like spreading them out. I tried to make it look like a snowflake a little bit. And so I just take some pieces, pull them back. And then when you get it to the look that you want, right, so I'm kind of pulling them at these points, kind of what like the points in a snowflake. And then I fluff up the center, spread them out, and then I have a simple center for it. Add glue, flap. So obviously it had a lot more steps because of the way that we prepped the petal, but I think the overall effect is worth it. I tend to always think it's worth it. So these are the two side by side. You can tell there's a little bit of a difference in color. If you have enough of these, I think that they kind of blend in. So I wanted to make several of these for a sort of snowy themed display, not necessarily Christmas, but winter, so I will have a lot of these, and I think I'm going to put them up in my office. I have a little space that I want to decorate and change out every season, so these are perfect. And let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. Bye.